Today I'm sewing and sharing a pattern that is just as great on its own as it is paired with other pieces from your wardrobe. This is the Saltwater Slip by Friday Pattern Company. It's a great piece for sewing up in a silky fabric if you want it to be nice and flowy or use it as a layering piece underneath dresses and skirts. It's also great to sew up in a cotton or a linen to wear as a nice and cool summery dress. You can wear it over a t-shirt or underneath a jacket, so it's a great transitional piece as well. This is also a great pattern to take a look at on Instagram. Check out the hashtag and see how other people have sewn it up. I've left a link to the pattern below so you can check out all the details, grab a copy, and sew it along with me. So grab that pattern, cut out your fabric, mark your notches, and let's get started. We're going to start by preparing our strap binding pieces. Place the slanted edges of your strap binding pieces right sides together, and we're going to pin those slanted edges together. The corners of each of those diagonal edges will peek over the other by 3/8 of an inch on both sides. Sew this seam with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I've gone to my ironing board and pressed this seam allowance open. Now I'm going to trim off those pointy edges that are hanging over each side. Now we're going to take this long strip of binding back to the ironing board and fold it in half lengthwise, wrong sides together, and give that a good press all the way across. Once you have that pressed, we're going to take the raw edges on both sides and fold them to the crease so that both of those raw edges meet in the middle and give that a good press all the way across. Here is what your strap binding should look like. If you're adding side ties to your garment, you're going to prepare them in the same way. If you have a bias tape maker, this will make the process a lot faster. You'll feed that binding through the wide end. Once you've fed that through, the bias tape maker will do what we just did, folding those raw edges to meet in the middle. And you'll take this to your ironing board and press in small sections, continuing to pull this back until you get all the way to the end. And do this for both of your ties. Now to create the tie, we're going to fold this tie wrong sides together so that both of those raw edges are now concealed within the tie, and give that a good press all the way across. Now we're going to take these ties to the sewing machine and edge stitch those folded edges together from one end all the way to the other. Do this for both of your ties. Place your two back pieces right sides together and pin them together along that center seam. Match your double notches and pin in place. Sew your back center seam with a 3/8 inch seam allowance from top to bottom and serge your seams to finish. Once you've finished this seam, go ahead and press it to one side. I've prepared both of my strap loop pieces in the same way as we did for the side ties, pressing those raw edges to meet in the middle, and then pressing the entire strip wrong sides together, and doing this for both ties. And just as we did for the side ties, we're going to edge stitch both of these loops from top to bottom. Here are the pieces from my strap kit that I'm going to be using for this project. And now I'm going to lace both of my strap loops through both of my rings. On the top edge of your main back piece, you have notches indicating where to place those strap loops. I've marked my notches here with pins. Take each of your strap loops and fold them in half so that the ring is at the bottom. Take the raw edges of your loop and place them on the wrong side of your fabric, centering the edges with your notch, and pin in place. And do this on both sides. Then go to your sewing machine and secure both of these strap loops in place with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Here is my neckline binding, and I've gone ahead and prepared it in the same way as we did for the strap ties, folding the raw edges to meet in the middle, and then folding that in half wrong sides together all the way across. I've marked the center of my binding here with a pin. Now we're going to take this neckline binding and wrap it around the neckline of the bodice. I'm going to match up the center of my neckline with the center of the binding. So now the wrong side of my binding is on the wrong side of the bodice, and the center of my binding meets the center of the bodice neckline. Then I'm going to take that top edge of the binding and fold it over that neckline and pin in place. And I'm going to continue sandwiching the neckline with this binding all the way across. Take the binding to the sewing machine and edge stitch it in place all the way across, periodically checking underneath to make sure that you are catching that opposite side of the binding as you stitch. And then trim off any excess binding beyond the bodice neckline here, so that your binding is flush with that neckline edge on both sides. I've transferred the dart from my front pattern piece onto my fabric. Now I'm going to fold my dart in half and pin through one dart leg and out the other. Do this for both of your darts and then go to your sewing machine and stitch from the outer edge to the point, leaving thread tails at both of your points so that you can tie them in knots. At the side seam of both of your front bodice pieces, just below the bust dart, you have a notch indicating where to place your strap tie. I've marked my notch here with a pin. I'm going to take one of my raw edges of the strap tie and place it right sides together with the bodice, matching the raw edges at that notch and pin in place. And do this on the other side with your other tie piece. Take the ends of these tie pieces at the side seam and baste in place. To finish the opposite raw edges of our ties, the instructions give us two options. You could fold the end of the tie twice, about 1/4 of an inch each time, and sew across that edge either with your sewing machine or by hand, or you could simply tie the very end of that tie in a knot. I'm going to do that option, and I'm going to do this for both ties. Now we want to finish the side seams for both the front and back pieces. I'm going to take both my front and back pieces to the serger and finish the side seam from the top to the bottom since I'm making the short dress version. Serge both of the side seams for the front piece and both of the side seams for the back piece as well. Place your front and back dress pieces right sides together and pin your side seams from top to bottom. And do this for both side seams. Sew both of your side seams from top to bottom with a 3/8 inch seam allowance and then press your seams open. Now grab your strap binding that we prepared at the beginning, fold your binding in half and give it a good press all the way across so it's very easy for you to see the center point. We're going to wrap this binding around the upper edge of the garment in the same way as we did for the front neckline earlier. Starting at your center back, wrap the binding around that edge and pin in place. And then continue wrapping the binding around the upper edge of your garment until you meet the neckline. Once you've pinned all the way around and you're at that neckline, with the rest of your binding extending beyond, you're going to continue pinning this binding in half all the way to the end, just folding it in half to encase those raw edges. And repeat all of those steps for the other side. Now we're going to take the strap binding to the sewing machine and edge stitch from one short edge of the binding all the way around the armhole and around the back edge of the garment until we're back at the short raw edge of our binding on the opposite side. Now that our binding and strap ties are done, we're going to take the loops that are attached to the back of the garment and press them up and over that seam binding. Edge stitch each of these loops, stitching right at the top of that binding so that these strap loops face upward. Do this edge stitching for both sides. I've taken one of my slider pieces and applied it to one of the strap ties on one side of the dress. Once we've done the same on the other side, you can try on your dress and adjust it to where you want it to be. Now I can attach my other slider to the other side. With your strap tie right side up, place it through the top loop of your slider. And then take the raw edge of your strap and place it over that center bar and out the other loop. And now it should look like this with the right side of my strap still facing up. Now take the end of your strap and place it through the circle loop at the back of your garment. Now we're going to draw that raw edge once again through the ring piece. Working from the back side of the ring this time, you're going to take the loop, place it through the top ring, over the center bar, and out the bottom ring. This might be a little tight, and you can use tweezers to help you pull it through if you have to. So now the end of your strap should look like this, with the raw edge of your strap sandwiched between the inner and outer main parts of your strap. We're going to take the raw edge of that strap and zigzag stitch it to the part of the strap that touches your body when you wear the dress. So the back inner strap piece. You want the end of the strap to be about 1 inch away from that ring piece. Zigzag stitch back and forth to secure. Now it's time to hem the bottom of the dress. I folded the bottom hem of the dress to the wrong side by 3/4 of an inch. Take that raw edge and fold it to the crease, fold all of that on the crease, and pin in place all the way around. And once you've rolled that hem all the way around, take it to your sewing machine and edge stitch close to that inner fold all the way around, and you're all done with your dress. Thank you for watching this sew along. Make sure you check out my other videos for more great sewing inspiration, and I'll see you in the next video.